Podcast Network Asia.
Hi, this is Alec Cuenca, and you're listening to Small Talk. Hey guys, welcome back to Small Talk, small conversations with huge impact. My name is Alec Cuenca, and I'm your host. And before anything else, I just want to thank each and every one of you who are listening to the podcast right now. If this is your first time, then go ahead and check out the other amazing episodes because you can learn a lot from them. I hope you learn a lot from this one as well. If you are an avid listener of the podcast, and thank you so much for coming back. I'm sure that you will learn a lot from this episode because today I am very excited to have someone on the show. I have a guest, and our guest for today is the president of Alpha Logistics and also the president of FFP Consulting, a fast-growing company specializing in people's performance improvement through talks, workshop, coaching, and consultancy programs for corporation. He is an international speaker and best-selling author of How Underdogs Can Become Overcomers, How to Overcome Financial Stress, and A Young Man's Manual to a Successful Life. He is also a Catholic lay preacher for the Feast Green Hills and the Feast Ortigas Galleria. Our guest for today is also a certified NLP practitioner or a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner. And lastly, he is a content creator and the host of the podcast, the JPaul Hernandez Show. That's also under Podcast Network Asia. So let's all welcome to the show, Mr. JPaul Hernandez. Welcome to the show, JPaul.
Hey, Alec, and thank you for having me for Small Talk podcast. And for those who didn't know, Small Talk has inspired me so much on like the podcast I have now. Just really grateful. I met Alec online, and now we're here.
Yeah, that's really funny. We actually met on Instagram a few months ago, and wala pa siyang podcast, but now he expanded his range in the podcasting. And I am sure that if you like the podcast, if you like the show that I am producing, you'll definitely love his. So go check him out after this one. So let's dive in right real quick into your background. I want to know, how did you start? How did your story start as a person in the service industry?
Man, I mean, I guess, I'm not the most traditional school supporter.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, when you're studying, I didn't have the best grades, and teachers would always say you have to be like this, you have to be like that to get this kind of work, and I just like I just really hated being boxed. I that's one of, I mean, I don't know. You'll see that on my posts all the time, but yeah, so I guess started working my early 20s. I just knew that I wanted to do something, and of course I didn't want to be employed. I was a terrible employee. So I mean, it's just like, I don't know, just not for me. I mean, it's nothing against corporate. You guys pay for me for my talks, but it's just not me. Not me as a person. And so there, it was not it. But so I was looking for something. I wanted to do business, but I couldn't sell stuff like a product. It's just not me. But I noticed when I was young, I've always liked of taking care of people. So for example, my parents let me borrow their car when I was young. So 17 years old, I would be the one driving a car for my friends. And I had no problem like driving my friends home, whether it's a guy or a girl. And since I didn't have money, I would like, if I can bring you home, just gas me up, and that's me. So just so happened when I was like, my eyes opened through books, through mentors, etc. That's when I realized that, oh, okay, you can actually have a lifestyle financed or a business through service. And then that's when I parang just like slowly figured things out. So basically that's it in a nutshell.
So you never really like thought when you were a child like ito yung gusto mong pasukin. Like you're in that industry where you help other people. You just know inside of you na you like to help other people, and you found a way to make that your profession, something like that.
Yeah, I guess siguro Because helping people is not popular. You have to be like this professional. You have to be this. That's what's popular sa mga titas and titos
Uh-huh.
and people outside. But yeah, I mean, or be a manager or be an executive. So it was, I mean, the closest was being a doctor. But when I found out it has like 9 years, parang ayoko na. So, yes.
Masyado mahaba. So, can you tell us like where did you actually start in the service industry? Like, did you start speaking first, or did you start writing books first, or did you start content creation first? Where did it all start?
All right. I love it. Nobody actually asks me these questions. Um, I started actually when I was still working. I did parang a side hustle of doing event photography.
Oh.
So my salary, I asked money from my parents for a camera, and then for my salary and stuff, I would buy stuff. So doing events, so still service, parang ganun.
Mhm.
And I loved it, but it failed. It failed, and so I eventually failed multiple businesses, and or parang multiple tries of doing business. And then one day I think I was about 23 years old, I'm not sure, or 22. I was going through a rough time in my life, and then my friend said, "Hey, join me at the feast." And okay, ano meron doon? So
Mhm.
so there's that's when I heard about Brother Bo Sanchez, and then I found a mentor, and then Brother Obet, and then they told me, but JPaul, my problems. I didn't know what to do with my life,
Mhm.
and they kept on saying, but anything is possible. Like what? And then they just kept telling me dreams can come true. Like what? Dreams can come true. And I remember one time, I was with Brother Obet, and then I knew in my mind that that's something I wanted to do. I wanted to give talks. And syempre, the more I got to know Brother Bo, I knew in my heart that's one thing I wanted to do. I wanted to help people, inspire people. So that's really how it started. Somehow, so parang started joining programs, and then somehow, some way, just because you're a good person, I think a client, parang hindi, parang, kasi nag-start ako, wala nagbabayad.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
ganun. So somehow, a company was looking for somebody who will teach life skills
Mm.
for millennials, and like sakto millennial, mahilig ako sa life skills, and then they just took a risk on me, and then they liked the program, and that's where it started getting paid, and I just said, okay, Lord, I have a crazy dream. I want to be like I want to be the best motivational speaker out there. Like I want to be like the most inspirational possible. Like gusto kong ka-compete yung mga Westerners. Not
Yeah.
I mean sila, hindi lang sila Francis Kong, sila Brother Bo, like around the world. And the more I studied it, the more I studied Francis Kong, Brother Bo, even Tony Robbins, the more I figured out that if you really want to be successful in being a speaker or content creator, you can't just be doing it. You have to like have businesses that will prove of concept, like hindi kalokohan yung tinuturo mo. So that's when I really got into, okay, I need to start a business. And that's how I got into the logistics. So, okay, parang mahilig naman sa service. I don't like to sell products so much. So, I mean, like, I didn't know what product to create. So, got into logistics, and sakto pala siya. It's fun in a sense that, what we get to do is through our service, like delivering goods or supplies or anything logistics from A to B, through our service, we help a business grow. And that's like, wow, sobrang in line dun sa vision and stuff, and just everything fell into place. So and now, like for example, it added value to me, like dealing with employees, especially like some are uneducated. You learn your leadership skills and communication skills are really challenged. So I'm really blessed by that. So that's how it kind of evolved.
So I love that, like knowing millennials or young people like me, especially the people who are interested in self help or in leadership. We like to read books, we like to watch TED Talks. But I guess you can only apply the things that you have learned when you can translate it into a business that also helps people. And I think that's like the best opportunity that you can get. You mentioned earlier that you were there was this person, brother, of course, brother Bo Sanchez and brother Obed.
Brother Obet.
Brother Obed. How important was the role of your mentors in your growth process?
All right. Yeah, very, very important. And I guess because sometimes I think the problem is people think that a mentor is with you 24/7. It isn't. It just like they're the, I believe, first people who really believed in me that I was not crazy. So yung maniwala ka sa sarili mo sobrang importante. So I mean, from then I've had more mentors, like more successful in a sense, wider reach. But like Brother Albert will always be important in my life, just because, from a guy dealing with quarter life crisis, didn't know what to do. This guy tells you, hey, you can be someone someday. Sobrang importante nun eh. Like for a young kid na parang, I don't know what to do. I'm so lost. I want to change the world, very millennial, but I don't know how. But then this guy tells you you're not crazy. Like it's actually possible. Like sobrang laki. It's a moral boost giver, and he only said that one time 10 years ago, and I still remember it as day, clear as day, and it still empowers me until today.
I love that. Like you only need like one person to tell you that you can do something, you can make your dreams come true, something like that. It may sound cheesy, but it is real. In my story that happened with Francis Kong back when I was graduating high school. I attended one of his talks in Letran, and then he just said that, and you can have anything that you are willing to work hard for, and all the little things matter. And dun ko lang talaga napansin na parang, okay, simula ngayon, lahat ng magiging decision ko is talagang makaka-apekto in the future. And it did. And eventually, yung mga downfalls, yung mga rock bottoms na nahit ko, it was because of the small decision that I made. And right now, I'm here helping people and providing value. It's because of the small decision that I made. So it just took one person in your life. And I guess that's why I'm really happy that I'm talking with you right now, because I'm talking with one of the people that lets people know or remind people that, hey, you can do it, right? So I just want to know a little bit about you and how your day goes. As a motivational speaker kasi, a lot of people are thinking na, wow, this guy is really wise and really smart. Your life must be so perfect, right? But I want to know, how does and I'm also a big fan of habits. And that's why I really want to know, what is your typical day as a motivational speaker look like?
All right. Yeah, I love this. I'm a very habit person. Let's start with pre-COVID. Because pre-COVID, maayos talaga yung habits ko. But I used to wake up 5 a.m. I work out at 6. So I go to the gym 6 a.m. for 6 a.m. class CrossFit, and that's how I start to do my meditation, my reflection, and when I wake up, I really imagine my day, like what's gonna be, and then I check my calendar, like my schedule, so that I can manage my energy, because I'm introverted eh. So I'm only energetic pag kunyari sa stage, etong nasa podcast, but after that I shrivel down. So I check my schedule to manage my energy. Like, pwede ko na ba ilabas lahat sa umaga, tapos sa gabi, like, I can just relax, or should I conserve my energy now? So sa hapon, sa gabi, like, kasi maraming meeting, yung ganyan. So yun, so, and then, I focus on like what my scheduled activities are. Like I schedule what I'll do, and then meetings and stuff like that. So I basically, my main habit is like really like my prayer reflection time. So if you're not a Catholic or Christian, it can be your meditation time. It's really that yung important talaga eh. And then my fitness regimen, sobrang importante niya because of I've dealt with anxiety growing up, and it really helps me relax and calm down, and really the energy just, I don't know, just helps me with life. So it's there, and really let my calendar dictate my day.
Mm.
So I really schedule it forward, and just so because I believe in like taking charge of my life, so that I don't let life happen. So basically that's it. Of course, but I have like weekly schedules. Like I go out on a date with my wife. So we've been going out since 2013 every single week, except pandemic kasi di kami makapag-date, but we at least Netflix at home, and then we make sure that we talk. So as as Francis Kong said, it's legit eh. Those small things that you parang make a priority in your life affects so much. Like for example, when we first talked dun sa IG, I could have been maangas and like, who's this guy? But then, yung habit ni natutunan ko kay Brother Bo, like just be open to meeting new people. Kasi you can be closed off eh. And then I didn't know I could learn so much from you, how you're doing podcasts, and now I'm doing it. So for me, the man, you have to like be in charge of your habits. So for me, yung sobrang importante niya. Like, handal kong sasabihin, but yeah, it's like really, but at the end of the day, it's scheduling. It's schedule what is important. Even like, I promise you, bro, I like check my calendar. Ay, pwede ako mag-PlayStation ngayon. Parang ganun. Like, I really like legit make it a part of my schedule, or else I'll go crazy. So yun. So scheduling your habits. And then, before kasi, I was really overweight and obese, about 220 plus pounds. But when my wife was pregnant, I got nervous because, my wife got sick then while pregnant. And because I was born with one kidney. So, like, okay, then it dawned on me while reflecting. Importante yung reflection time. Okay, my wife is having a hard time pregnancy wise. I have one kidney. I'm overweight. I have crazy dreams, like the one I mentioned earlier. How will I reach these dreams if I'm dead and fat? Not fat shaming, but I was fat.
Yeah.
So I had to really like take charge of my life, and that's basically my schedule. Now it's just more of nagbago lang during the pandemic because a lot of work happens afternoon to the evening. So like nag-later time lang siya, but similar habits pa rin.
Yeah, I guess the thing that you're explaining because of the schedule is because when you're, kasi yan din isang skill din yan na natutunan ko lately. Actually, ngayon lang, mga 3 weeks ko na siyang ginagawa. Like, every single part of the day, talaga, ito, rest to. Ito, sige, mag-chill ka dyan. Pero ini-schedule ko rin talaga. Kasi una, sometimes I feel like wala akong nagagawa. Wala akong, I'm unproductive. And second is just because living with intention, mas masaya lang matulog sa gabi pag talagang alam mo na ginawa mo yung dapat mong gawin for the day. I wanna touch on a little bit because your story with how you were fat and you had one kidney and you have all of these problems. And I've also read from, I haven't read the whole thing, but I read from one of your books that you explained that you hit a rock bottom in your life. And that somehow, well, of course, it helped you where you are right now. But of course, it's a huge part of it is reflection. And I just want to know, for people who are listening and they might be going through a very rough patch, how did you overcome your rock bottom, and how can people, overcome theirs?
For me, really, it's God. no other answer. It's really God's grace. And I'm just really grateful when I was in a rock bottom. My friend brought me to the feast.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, I guess, so for those who are listening, find a feast or find a church, find God, but also on your part, on the practical part, you'll have to decide that one day you'll stop being a victim. That's really it. And then that day, and it will really suck and hurt. And the days after that will still suck and hurt until one day it won't.
I love that. It's really simple, actually, when I hit my rock bottom, it was a weird way of me also reconnecting with my faith, because during the rock bottom, I got to experience that, well, will my faith even save me? Parang ganyan. I'm not the most religious person on earth, but
Yeah.
especially on rock bottoms, I can say that I lost my faith. Like, is this
Yeah.
even real? Like, even though my problems are not that heavy like yours, I felt like, could this really be happening if there's faith, if there's God? But eventually, after that, I was able to reconnect with my faith, and but still, it was very hard. It wasn't easy at all.
Yeah.
Like, every day, it still sucked, right? But it got better. It definitely did. Now,
Yeah.
I want to touch more about faith, and how do you think? Can you tell us some ways when people, or some little reminders on how can people reconnect with their faith?
Yeah. And I think this is like, I've listened to your podcast, and I love, by the way, everything you like. You seem older. Like, you don't seem like you're in your 20s. So that's really, I mean, the wisdom is beyond your years. And I mean, I'm not that old. I'm not that old, but I'm older than you.
Yeah.
So I honor you for that, bro. And I guess related to all your content on your mindset and everything, it's still, how do you know God loves you? Is allowing God to love you and knowing how much worth it you are, I guess. And you in your content, you talk about self-worth a lot, and it's knowing your worth. It's knowing that you are valuable. A faith is not performance based, unlike work. That your value is based on what you do, but yung spiritual realm, it's based on who you are and who made you. So if you believe that there is a God that is loving and crazy about you, and then it's gonna be easier for you to feel better about yourself, and then slowly get better. And one thing I learned from Brother Bo that really helped me a lot, sabi niya, JPaul always encourage people to dream. Sabi ko, bakit? Paano pag selfish dream? Sabi niya, lahat naman tayo, we start with selfish dreams. But dreams are planted by God in our heart. And somewhere along the way, naaayos yan. So when we focus on dreams, things get better. Actually, through the years, legit.
I love that. Actually, I got goosebumps when you said that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, in a sense, as I said earlier, I just wanted to be sikat. I wanted to be like the next Francis Kong. Very selfish. Kasi gusto mo sumikat, gusto mo yumaman. But then, as I pursued it, I just had this burning desire in my heart to see one person at a time get better. Yung ganun. Now my dream has evolved. Like, through this business. I started, I just wanted to be a speaker. Then now I have a business. And my crazy dream, all our employees will have a fighting chance to have a house. Alam mo yun, because we grow this so much, we help them with their finances. Yung turuan sila, yung hindi lang ubusin lahat, and then treat everyone like family. That everyone can, like, sir, makakabili na ako ng maliit na bahay. And that's really, it's still the same. It's in a sense, I wanted to speak. I wanted to help people. I wanted to inspire. But then it was very selfish. Gusto ko sumikat. But, just pursuing that dream, like, refines you. I don't know if it's because bata ako noon and selfish. But now in my 30s, and just pursuing those dreams have evolved my heart. And it's still similar. It just, like, parang umayos lang. I don't know, does that make sense?
Yeah, it really does make sense. Like, I really love the way, like, it all starts with your self-worth, with your self-awareness. And that's why a lot of people, including us, we encourage people to dream, because that dream is somehow just a thought, an idea, and we plant it in ourselves, right? And we believe in it. Kahit alam naman na we doubt, we have fears, we have doubts, we all that, we have all of those stuff. But we keep on going, and then eventually that seed will turn into something bigger. And that's where, like, nagulat na lang ako na parang, okay, wow, ang dami kong natutulungan na tao. And dun actually mas lumakas yung faith ko. Dun ko feeling na mas nag-reconnect ako sa faith ko. Kasi I couldn't do this all by my own. Like, it was just a selfish thought na for me naman, I wanted to, like, beat Joy Spring in podcasting. Like, that was my goal. Diba? Pero now, it evolved into something really unexpected. And I think that's a really amazing way to put it. So thank you so much for sharing that. Now, before I ask you my next question, I would like to invite everyone to please go check out the other amazing podcasts under Podcast Network Asia, such as this one.
Marhaba, I'm Jarek.
And I'm Apple, and we're from the Langga Speaks podcast.
Coming to you all the way from Dubai.
Yalla, join us as we talk about family,
Faith, and everything in between. We're brought to you by Podcast Network Asia to remind you
na palangga ka sa Diyos.
Okay, actually, I'm really enjoying this conversation. I'm actually surprised na ngayon lang tayo nag-usap. And I think I could really learn a lot from you, brother. Kaya, I'm really taking it all in right now. So,
Thank you.
I want to go into this question. Do you think you've found your purpose in life?
Definitely. It's really to help people win, to serve people, to love people. It's just there. Akala ko dati, complicated yung purpose. Simple lang pala. I mean, it's very simple. Akala mo kasi dati, maging mayaman. I mean, becoming rich is good. It's comfortable. It's luxurious. There's nothing wrong with it. Pero alam mo, bro, I just enjoy the grind of it. Mm-hmm. I enjoy the things I do. Minsan, yung win, okay, thank you, nanalo ka. May ganitong blessing. Yes, grateful ka. Pero dude, I mean, at our age, we get to do what we get to do. Isn't that already, like, purposeful living? So parang, man, ang sarap lang.
How do you think people can, find their purpose?
I guess you really have to start by unlearning. You have to unlearn a lot of societal pressure. You have to stop thinking about what other people would think. You have to stop worrying about, like, pag pinursu ko yung purpose ko, wala nang kikitain, wala nang kakainin. I guess you have to really go back to your, what do you call this? Formative years. 0 to 7. Find out who you were nung time na yun. Kung sino yung original design ng Diyos sa'yo. And then go from there. Ano ba yung joy mo? What makes you happy? And then, ano yung personality mo? And then from there, ano ba yung passions mo? Ano ba yung pangarap mo noon? And then from there, you will find a journey and find your purpose. How will you know? You'll know. Yung parang, one day, ito na yun. I remember one of my favorite quotes, Mark Twain said, the two most important dates in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. You'll know. Yung one day, wala siyang like burning bush or like that. Like, you're probably walking around the mall and like, or you're doing it and then like, wow, ito na yun. So that's it.
I love that. I love how animated you are. I hope people could see na yung burning bush talaga ginawa niya. Pero you mentioned that you find your purpose, right? I want to ask, is there any difference between your purpose and your passion?
Oh, yeah. I mean, because passion is something that changes every time. I'm still passionate about photography. I'm passionate about cooking, but I don't do it all the time. I mean, passion is something that you will fight for. For example, I'm passionate communication. That's why we, do talks and podcasts. Kasi I love communicating. I love sending a message. But then I realized purpose is why you live every day, why you wake up every day. So for me, it's to help people win, add value. So my purpose is that. Okay, and then how? Ay, sakto, passionate pala ako sa communication. Passionate ako sa communication. So that's why I'll create content that brings that. I'm passionate about leadership as well. So I'll lead teams that will add value to people, will help people win.
Love that. Like purpose is something that you like give it out to the world, but most of the time it's done through your passion, right? And so a lot of people again think that this life, especially when you are at the stage, it's where all the lights are nakatutok na sa'yo. A lot of people think, wow, this guy is living the dream, right? I want to ask, and I've listened to one of your episodes where you had a burnout, right? That you apparently you're still human, and a lot of us are, and most of us are. I mean, everyone is still human, and I just want to know, how did you deal with your burnout, and how could maybe a lot of people are dealing with burnout as well? Maybe they could learn from you.
Oh man, yeah. Actually, this is something. This is funny. I was being invited in a podcast or something. That's when I realized how you really get into burnout. Parang ganun. So like, naggas, okay. Just parang natahimik ako. Sabi, is there something wrong? Hindi, may I realize something. You know what? This is what I realized about burnout. You don't get burned out without your permission.
Wow.
Kasi, small talk podcast, all the small things lead to something big. So, for example, you decided to not sleep. You decided to binge on Netflix, and nothing against Netflix, and then sleep 1 hour and then have so much work the next day. You decided to be in that toxic relationship. You decide, diba? You decided all those small decisions compounded into this burnout moment. And for me, I realized that, I forget that I'm not a robot. Na, hindi, kaya ko, kasi nag-workout naman ako, etc., etc. And then I was abusing my body. Actually, honestly, I'm actually abusing my body by not sleeping, or by not taking a break. I sleep 7 to 8 hours, but, I don't let my mind rest. Yung parang, then I realized, so I went deeper. Bakit? Because sometimes, when you don't take a rest, when you don't reflect, for me, is I base my worth on my productivity, on what I do. I base my identity on that, which is wrong. So there.
How did you overcome your burnout? Did you took a break? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, of course, for me, prayer, reflection, going back to the habit. Our bodies kasi is our bodies our level of healing is so strong. Sobrang grabe yung tibay ng katawan natin, our brain, but because we can't heal because we don't allow ourselves to be okay. So basically, I guess the best thing was I started listening to my body. So now I listen to my body. Like really legit, I gut feel myself, how tired am I? Because sometimes, minsan nangyayari na sa akin, like, my schedule on a Thursday is not that busy. So, may temptation ako to punuin. But then now, I like, am I okay? Like, I asked my, JPaul, are you okay? Like, baka naman may schedule, baka maluwag, pero maybe I could take that 2-hour nap to just like YouTube and like Netflix or just really rest my brain. And then, yeah, sometimes it does. So, it's really, again, going back, knowing your worth, going back to your habits, taking a break, resting, meditate, all of those things. You have to find, I guess, again, I repeat, a habit that will help you recover.
Yeah, and you always mention meditation. Like, I think I've read this in one of the books. I think it was from Jay Shetty's. Like, meditation is not something, like what we see. Of course, there are certain ways that you could meditate, but essentially, meditation is just listening to your body, listening to your mind. And I also believe that rest is very important, not just physical rest, but also mental rest. And it's not like you're not sleeping, pero you are taking like a conscious break from whatever you're doing, because and I love just how you put it, like you don't get burnout without your permission. Like that's an amazing way to look at it. And so now I want to talk about your content creation, because obviously you are a motivational speaker and you love going to events, conferences, but now you're stuck in home. So what adjustments did you make, and is it harder right now or is it easier for you?
The biggest adjustment is I spent so much for ring lights, a microphone. I mean, I still, I love both. I never thought that this is possible. Like there was one weekend, like a stretch when I gave a talk in Qatar. Then the next weekend I gave a talk in Australia. So like, that's kind of impossible.
That's
unless
amazing.
like super big time ka na, diba? But now it just made everything easier. I love both. I think yung, of course, I miss yung interaction. I miss seeing people embrace. I miss seeing people cry or laugh. So that's really, iba pa rin. You really can't, hindi mo pa rin pagmamalit yung live, whether it's 1 or 1,000 people or 10,000 people. It's still, there's human, we're human beings eh. We're meant for connection. Whatever, scientific yun. Like, we're social beings. Hindi lang siya pa-cute, but it's legit. We need human connection. But, so yun. So, I'm really enjoying pandemic in a sense because of introversion. I've been more productive. So I'm actually thinking, except like I had to just really deal with the business. I had to I was finishing a book. I'm in chapter 6 of 10, but I had to put the book on pause because I really had to deal with the business and just because of pandemic problems, nothing really detrimental, but I just, parang yung targets namin 5 years from now, it's now here. So I need more focus on the logistics business because it just opened up so much opportunity. So I think I'll just focus on doing podcasts muna, and if there's a talk, okay. But I really need to be a leader right now for the business, and then I know if this works, the talk stuff will catch up. I just know the small things will add to big things in the future.
Yeah, and you also mentioned about your podcast, and I want to talk about that. But before that, again, I want to invite people to go check out the other amazing podcasts under Podcast Network Asia, such as this one.
Hey, you. Sorry to interrupt your podcast listening pleasure. Wonderful choice of podcast, by the way. My name is Samo, and I have a podcast too. It's called The Narrow Door. It's an ecumenical podcast, which means we talk about everything Christian. I mean, I got a panel on everything, so go give it a listen after this one, okay? All right, thanks. See you there.
Now, brother, I want to talk with you about your podcast. Well, of course, before we already had a conversation, like you got to start your own podcast, right? Everyone, when they have a message, I believe, should start a podcast. And so you started your own podcast, and I want to know the idea behind your podcast. And I know it's for motivating people, but what is it essentially for, and where did you get the whole idea for it?
So I had multiple versions until I got into podcast network Asia. So ang dami ko naisip, magulo isip ko. So I'm very experiential. So I have to try it and see if it works. Then if it doesn't, I just try again. So now JPaul Hernandez podcast, it's just really in a so you mentioned you have an episode with Stanley Chi. Inaasar niya ako, grabe ka, parang ang Boy Abunda, ganyan. Tapos, si Boy Abunda nga, di Boy Abunda podcast. Sabi ko, naisip ko lang kasi, may Facebook ka na, may, yung all my channels, JPaul Hernandez. So parang, it's confusing kung mag-iiba ka pa. So why not just, like, align everything? Yun. But, so it's called the JPaul Hernandez podcast, but mostly it's an entrepreneurial podcast. Bro, my vision really is to help Filipinos become world-class entrepreneurs. It's really about entrepreneurship, career. For example, now, how many employees do we have? Like, we have about 14 employees, 15 ako. And during this pandemic, because of the company, I have 14 direct people that are not hungry. And then we have indirect, partnerships, etc. And then mas marami sila. But because of this, there are families who are, out of poverty. And I believe that's the gift of entrepreneurship. And that's the future of the Philippines. If the Philippines will really rise up, we need more entrepreneurs. And kind entrepreneurs. Loving entrepreneurs, not selfish. So really, my vision is like, no, we need more Filipino entrepreneurs to rise up. Kasi sila, for me, honestly, bubuhay sa Pilipinas. Like I've read in books, America became America. Yes, Abraham Lincoln, they're great. But how was America built? Vanderbilt, Carnegie, Rockefeller, JP Morgan. They were the titans that built America. And I mean, I don't care if I'm not them. I don't care if I become like the billionaire. Just wanna be a force for good that inspires that next billionaire. So that will give like provision for families and give opportunities. So not to be political, but I really believe that if there are more entrepreneurs in the Philippines, we will rise up even faster in the world standing and stuff like that and be world class. I really believe Filipinos are world class. I mean, you go to like nurses like abroad. Ang galing ng Filipino nurses, ang galing ng Filipino ganyan, ang galing ng Filipino ganyan. So yeah, one day my heart speaks like one day we will also be known for world class entrepreneurs.
I want to touch in a little bit more about that because, well, for some people, they know your show about you as a motivational speaker from the books that you wrote, but now you're transitioning into a more entrepreneur lifestyle, right? So can you tell us? Can you just give us a little bit more details about how you started your own your entrepreneurship life? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess siguro I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life, but my grandfather was an entrepreneur and my dad.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to do something in business. Pero kasi sa business kasi mas magulo. Like walang one track eh. So yun, but as I really started my speaking business, my speaking gig, my motivational, I knew that entrepreneurship is it. And really one of the best ways to achieve financial freedom is through business. So I really envision like building wealth for my next generation that will help. Na parang I love I think Saint Clement says, how can I help if I don't have money? That's a paraphrased version. You know, even the saints, even I've researched about it. Kasi talagang I was worrying, is being Catholic and rich bad? So talagang it really concerned me. But then, as a feast builder, leading a feast, and helping people, bro, hindi kasi pwedeng yung motivation kwento lang. Kailangan mo rin silang pakainin eh. They need to learn how to fish, and that's why I really believe in entrepreneurship. It's really like, you don't need a college degree.
Mhm.
You don't need to be rich. You don't need to be fluent in English to be an entrepreneur. It's actually the job that anyone can do. So I really believe it's the thing that will help people get out of that poverty, that rut, that wall that they've been experiencing. So
Yeah, I also want to know what's like the hardest part of being an entrepreneur.
deciding to not give up every day. It's just really hard. Just because, for example, your sales in your job, your sales, your marketing, your accountant, your accountant. But in business, you kind of need to understand everything. But at the end of the day, business is about serving people, serving your clients well, solving a problem for them. My biggest issue as an entrepreneur is rejecting the lie that I can't make it. So it's everyday struggle na, hindi mo kaya yan. Hanggang dyan ka na lang. Everyday, yun pa lang eh. It's already a mental battle. So every day just show up, and it's not about yung technicality. Of course, technicality is hard. Pero yung biggest game, 80% of the game is inside eh. Yung like, hanggang dyan ka na lang. Like for example, sa podcast nga lang eh, like, invite ko ba tong guest na tong sikat or artist or parang medyo masikat na negosyante? Baka busy siya. Tapos unang tanong mo pa lang, oo naman, go game! I don't know how it does, pero game na game ako dyan. So parang, what? I've been stressing out like 90%. Tagal ko nag-stress out on nothing. So it's really the mental battle inside.
I like that. Like a lot of people don't actually see that. They see when they go to Instagram, like at the end, entrepreneur, lifestyle, CEO, diba? Yung mga kotseng maganda. But they don't actually see that it's a daily mental battle that you have to deal with. So we've talked about what are the hardest thing about it. I want to know what you enjoy the most about it.
Man, when I see people win, I mean, we have a client started their business July because of COVID pandemic business. They have now 70,000 Instagram followers and 200,000 Facebook followers. And then just
Wow.
saying that, and nobody knows what we do for them. I mean, hindi siya sikat yung logistics part.
Mhm.
Kasi we hindi namin bit-bit yung name namin, bit-bit namin yung name nila eh. So, we're invisible. But we help them get there because why? When they receive their cakes, alam niyo na, cake business siya. So, when they receive their high-end cake, sobrang pulido, sobrang alaga, ang ganda ng unboxing experience kasi nalagaan namin eh. And seeing, and then knowing, yung kita mo yung face ng client namin na nabawasan namin yung problema nila. That's it. Then pag nakita kong happy yung client, yung staff ko, pag nakita kong things are working out, sobrang happy. It's really the daily wins eh. Yun yung breakthroughs. And then of course the money, everything, that's a cement. Yung parang okay, that's a nail in the coffin. That's really legit. So but really, like for example, we expanded this year.
Congratulations. Yeah.
And dami naming natulungan eh. May na-hire kami eh. And that really makes me happy. Yun talaga.
I just love how you speak about it. Like I've talked to some entrepreneurs, and of course they're talking about how hard, how hard on the outside is entrepreneurship. But when you speak about it, you're really kind. It's like it's something that just makes your heart very happy and very full. And I wish I could talk to a lot more people about entrepreneurship and that kind of approach or in that kind of perspective, because I just imagine, like, if we have all the entrepreneurs just in the business of making people win, just like you are, I think the Philippines will essentially be a lot more better in a lot better place. So yeah,
We hope.
yeah, we we certainly hope. Now, before I actually let you go and finish the podcast, I just want to ask, because I'm sure that there are people listening to the podcast and they say, now, wow, that's really insightful, but I'm still scared. I still have a lot of doubts, right? What advice could you give to people who are in a not very good place, but they know that they want to change their life for the better? What advice would you give to them?
First of all, I encourage you to buy my book, How Underdogs Can Become Overcomers.
I love
Loving it.
that.
I wrote in that book, no, but this is legit. What you name, you can. This is one of my favorite chapters. What you name, you can tame. Just imagine, Alec, you go to the hospital, the doctor asks you, "Sir, what's wrong? You feel your headache." You write down what you feel, right? What are the symptoms, and then they ask you for your medical history. Because sometimes the medical history and what your symptoms are related, and then that's when they can give a prognosis, yung ano yung sakit mo. Why? Because for example, you're having a headache and they just give you Biogesic, yung pala meron ka ng ibang worse sakit, like we don't want to name it, but yung mga worse na sakit for the brain, then be mistreating you, right? And I guess sometimes people mistreat what's wrong with them. They just think, hindi, kakaraoke ko na lang, maging happy na lang ako. Hindi. You have to know what's wrong. So for me, the first thing you need to do is you do an inventory. Do an inventory of why you're afraid. As in, like, legit, isulat mo sa papel. Kasi pag nakita mo, magigets mo how you can deal with it. Like, for example, my issue was, for example, I have unforgiveness with my dad or somebody that hurt me in the past. Okay, even if hindi kami uy, Dad, I forgive you, I love you. Okay lang, kasi I need to, on my part, I need to forgive my dad. Or I need to forgive this person who hurt me. Kasi nung bata ako, I felt insecure because my teacher made me feel this. Sinulat mo doon, di ba? Okay, then you have to deal with it. But the more you run away from those things that stop you, the farther your goal will be. So I really encourage you to do an inventory of what's stopping you and why you're being stopped. And then as you see, masakit. Hindi mo siguro kayang gawin ng isang upuan lang. If it takes you weeks and months, go ahead, just write it down. And then when you realize, okay, ito pala, bakit takot ako kasi ganito? Okay, then you can find a way to deal with it. Maybe get counseling, maybe get therapy, whatever. You can't do it yourself. You can't do it by yourself. You always need someone else, or you need people to help you. There's no such thing as a self-made man.
That is beautiful, JPaul. I really appreciate that. And I think a lot of our listeners would appreciate that as well. So if you're listening right now, go get that ball pen and do an inventory and try to be brutally honest with yourself and just lay down the things that can potentially or is actually stopping you from reaching that next level. So I've learned a lot, and I know that my listeners also learned a lot. But before I actually let you go, I have a small segment here in Small Talk. It's called Real Talk, where I ask you a bunch of questions, 5 questions, and you need to answer with either one word, one phrase, or one sentence. Now, no explanation, pero I usually break my own rules. So let's just get going. My first question is, if you could talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you say to him?
Dreams come true.
Love that. Love that. Second, name a person who you would want to talk to, dead or alive.
Ooh, Steve Jobs.
Nice one. I love that's my answer as well. Yeah. Next question. If you were an animal, what would you be?
Lion.
Lion. Okay, this is the part, guys. I think if you are listening to the podcast, I always break my rule in the number 3. Pero why lion?
Man, king.
King. Leo. Okay. Number 4. If you could change one thing in this world, what would it be?
Prejudice.
Nice. Prejudice. I love that. Last question. What do you want your legacy to be known for?
A person who did his best to love.
Thank you. That's really beautiful, JPaul. I have learned a lot from this episode. I will always be grateful for you because you accepted this invite, and I just can't thank you enough for joining us and sharing us your insights and your knowledge and your experiences. If the people who are listening right now wants to learn more about you, where can they find you online?
Well, first, you can find me. I'm a part of the Podcast Network Asia. So
Yes.
I'm part of my podcast after my namesake, and also part of the Narrow Door podcast in PNA. It's an ecumenical podcast, and you can just search my name. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, JPaul Hernandez.
Okay, that's it, you guys. If you are enjoying this podcast, then make sure that you check out JPaul Hernandez, the JPaul Hernandez show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well, because you will love it like you are loving this podcast right now. So again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much, JPaul, for coming and joining us today. And yeah,
My pleasure.
I guess that's all. I hope you guys learned something today. This is Small Talk. My name is Alec Cuenca. This is Small Talk, small conversations with huge impact. And I will talk to you guys next episode. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to Small Talk. For more updates, you can follow me at Small Talk Podcast on Instagram and on TikTok. That's at Small Talk Podcast on Instagram and on TikTok.
The views and opinions expressed by the podcast creators, hosts, and guests do not necessarily reflect the official policy and position of Podcast Network Asia. Any content provided by the people on the podcast are of their own opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything.